Today's class is Luli Nishmat. One of my spiritual mentors just passed away 2 days ago. He was a very, very tremendous chassid. His name was Rabbi Korf, alav shalom. Rabbi Rafal Pinchas, Ben Shia. Amen. He was very quick to make a very deep and close relationship with people. People met him right away; they felt they could trust him, and he was. I'm not going to go talk about him for the next couple of days if I don't want to start talking about him. I just wanted to dedicate this to him. And with this theme we're going to discuss today is very connected to who he was, which is we're going to discuss a question all of us have at different times. The question that we have is often, how can we open up the gates of heaven? How can we get God's attention? How can we get God to pay attention to us and listen to us and to answer our prayers? What can we do to get in good, so to speak, with Hashem and Hashem to answer our prayers?
Yell loud.
Well, you remind me, actually, some chassidim have a custom when they pray, they scream. So one guy, they call it kaliner chassidim. That's their custom. So someone passes by one of their synagogues and
they cry.
And he's like, "Dude, have you tried asking nicely?" But that's not how we get God's attention. There's another way. And I want to address this through the prism of this week's Torah portion. We read this week about Pinchas. After Bilam tried to curse the Jewish people unsuccessfully, he advised the king of Balak. He says, "I know that their God is very against promiscuity, so my advice to you is to get them to sin with non-Jewish women, and this will cause their God to be angry at them." And they successfully seduced many, many Jewish men to not only sin with non-Jewish women, but also they also seduced them to do idol worship. They told them, "We're not going to be with you unless you pray to our idol." So they caused a huge plague to the Jewish people. And in the middle of all this tumult, the prince of the tribe of Shimon, his name was Zimri. Zimri had the audacity to go over to Moses himself and said to him, "Hey Moses, you're not allowed to marry Midianite women. Isn't your wife a Midianite?" So Moses did not have, at that moment, God took away from Moses the spirit of knowledge. And God told Moses, what's the answer? For whatever reason, God took away Moses' wisdom for that moment. And Moses says, "I don't know what to say." And everyone was crying. Everyone knew it was a tragedy, but no one knew what to say. So all in the middle of all this man named Pinchas, who had the same soul as Elijah the prophet, he gets up and he says, "Moses, didn't you tell us the halacha in this case that if someone's zealous for God's honor, he can defend God's honor?" And Moses says, "You're the one who read the letter, you should fulfill it." And he goes and in front of everyone, takes a spear and he ends Zimri and the princess of Midian's life immediately, and he kills them. And all of the Jewish people at the time, after he kills them, aren't really like jumping on the bandwagon. "Oh, great job." They weren't like that. In fact, the sages were very upset with him. The sages criticized him. The sages said, "You see this guy? You see what he did? His grandfather was Yitro. Moses' father-in-law was his grandfather. You know why he did what he did? He did what he did because he comes from this man who used to fatten calves to idol worship. Yitro would take calves, and idol worshippers in general would take meat and feed it to their calves, and then they would offer it as a sacrifice to their God. This is a guy, he comes from that family, that's why he's doing this." Now, that's what they said. But if they really felt he was a murderer, say he's a murderer. If they felt that what he did was right, why are they mentioning, he fattened calves to idol worship? Say he's a murderer. Talk about the real issue over here. If they felt what he did was so bad, say he's terrible, this guy's a murderer. But they didn't say that. They said he fattened calves to idol worship. What they mean? What they meant was, they thought he may have done the right thing, but he did it for the wrong reasons. Some people are always looking to be the one to hold the spear, right? Some people are always, it may be for a good reason, but maybe because of something bad inside of you. They said he has a wrong intent, a bad reason for doing what he did. That's why they mentioned the calf thing. It's very cruel. It looks like you're giving the calf food. "Here, have some more, something more to eat. Here, eat some more. Eat some more. Looks like you're being kind. What you're really trying to do is fatten up the calf so that you could kill it." So they were telling Pinchas, "You come from a family of cruel people. That's why you did what you did." So they weren't against the action that he did. They were against the motive. There was a great rabbi in Israel 100 years ago. His name was Rabbi Yosef Sonnenfeld. He was the first Ashkenazic rabbi he said a very interesting analysis to define the difference between when you're fighting for the right reasons, fighting for the wrong reasons. He gives the following analogy. He says, you have two enemies of the mouse. You have the woman of the house is an enemy of the mouse. You also have a cat. They're both enemies of the mouse. But there's a difference between the animosity of the cat and the animosity of the housewife. The cat and the woman of the house both want the mouse to die, but there's a difference. The cat wishes there's more mice, so he could kill more mice. He could eat more mice. The woman of the home wants it to be no more mice. So there's a big difference between people who fight for the right reasons, people who fight for the wrong reasons. Some people are always looking for a fight. They go, where is there a car driving on Shabbat? I wish a car comes by driving on Shabbat. In some places in Israel they do this. Unfortunately, they may have very noble intentions, probably not, but they may have noble intentions. And they're, where can we throw rocks at a car who's driving on Shabbat? Where can we defend God's honor? So a lot of people stand up for God's honor when they have a chance to fight. And that was what the other Jewish people were accusing Pinchas. They're saying he may have done the right thing, bad motive. But God said he did the right motive. God said he did it for the sake of God. God said he had the right intentions. And in fact, in order to show how wonderful he is, God gave him the unique privilege of joining the Parsakar family. Actually, the Kohen family, which are the Parsakars are cousins and members of that family. It never ever happens. It never happens that God changes the rules. It's not like you're on the chessboard and you're a pawn, and when you do a bunch of mitzvot, eventually you become a Kohen. I will never ever be a Kohen. But it was a unique thing at that moment because he was so in tune with God's desire. God gave him a gift which was beyond the regular order, and all of a sudden he is elevated to Kohen status forever. So he was not a Kohen originally, and he became a Kohen because of what he did. After he killed someone, not because he killed someone, because he had the right intent. He had the right intent. Now, a lot of times we accuse people doing things for the wrong intent. I want to tell you a fascinating story that actually changed someone's life, and hopefully it will change ours as well. There was a man who passed away a few months ago from corona. His name was Rabbi Shmuel Buket. He was one of the Rebbe's emissaries to Israel. And he said that he witnessed the following thing that changed his life. It was many, many decades ago. He was on a bus in Israel, and this old man gets on the bus, and there's a woman, and the bus is packed, and the bus is, it's the old days in Israel, trying to stay on the bus is jumping and moving around. You've been on the Egged bus, yeah? You know what I'm talking about. Anyway, so he's on the bus, and this old man comes on the bus, and he wants to sit down. He asks this woman if she can get up, because he's an old man, she's a young woman, and she just looks at him, and she looks down. And everyone in the bus, what kind of chutzpah, what kind of insolence, how terrible this woman is. This guy wants to sit down, he's an old man, and this little young lady, why can't you get up for him? She doesn't get up. The bus goes on, everyone gets off the bus, and just he and she are on the bus. He and she are on the last stop. They have to go to some hospital, Perea hospital, and the bus stops, she gets up, she takes her crutches out from under her seat, and she takes her crutches and she starts going very slowly off the bus. He walks over to her, and he ran after her, and he said to her, I just want to ask you a question. How come when they accused you of why didn't you get up and everyone was in such a pressure in the bus the whole time, why didn't you say? She said, I was embarrassed. Then she said, I want to ask you a question. What did you think when I didn't get up? He was embarrassed. He couldn't answer. He put his eyes down. What could he say? So that he was very appreciative of that experience, because it really guided the rest of his life when it comes to looking at people, and you never really know what the motive of someone is. And therefore the Torah always tells us not to judge people. Don't be quick to judge people. Sometimes you may see someone doing something wrong, but they don't even know it's wrong. Some people don't even know they're doing the wrong thing. There's another point that the Alter Rebbe says, you don't even know what kind of character this person has. For you, it may be a very easy thing. For the person that you're talking to, it may be impossible to overcome his urges, that he has a burning fire to do the wrong thing. You don't know what's going on. There was a man in the city of Berditchev who became a priest. Berditchev was like the shtetl, I'm talking like Shiraz. I'm talking like everyone, when it's Shabbat, the whole town was Shabbat. So this guy became a priest. It wasn't like a popular thing to do. He's 70 years old and becomes a priest. It was like a huge thing in the Jewish community. And they told the rabbi of Berditchev, you know what happened to Yankel? Yankel became a priest. Rabbi Berditchev, he was known to be like the defending angel of the Jewish people. Always found good in everybody. He says, what an amazing man. What an amazing man. He became a priest. He joined look at this. He held it in for 70 years. He wanted this for 70 years. He held it himself in. He never went after this for 70 years. So there's a way to look at someone. We're told in the ethics of our fathers, judge kol ha'adam l'kav, judge the whole man for the sake of merit. It doesn't say judge every man, it says judge kol ha'adam, which means if you really knew the whole guy, you wouldn't judge him negatively. The reason we judge people is because we only see one tiny bit of the person's persona. If we knew the whole person, we would find a way to judge him favorably. When you judge someone favorably, it helps in two ways. It helps your person in two ways. Number one, it helps me. If I judge people negatively, you know what that does? You know why people in New York are so much more intelligent than people in Los Angeles? You know why? You ever notice that? Because people in New York and people in Los Angeles both go to work, but people in Los Angeles go to work with the subway. People here, they go to work with a car. What do you do when you go in your car? Listen to talk radio. Who are you listening to? You think Sean Hannity and Dennis Prager, that make you smarter? You're going to hear a lot of negativity. It doesn't matter what side of the political spectrum you're on. You're going to hear a lot of negative energy. The whole talk radio is negative energy. It slows your brain down. Not only that, it makes you bitter. Makes you negative. When they drive to New York, when they go take a subway to New York and subway to work in New York, they read. Makes them smarter. When you read, it makes you smarter. In a similar way, if you're preoccupied with people's efficiency, it doesn't matter if you're talking with the president or whatever, it's going to make you a bitter, negative person. When you're positive, you see good in other people, you stream negative positivity, you stream energy, you're able to do stuff. So I'm not talking about being naive and saying, oh, everybody's wonderful, everybody's great. When you look at someone, there's different dimensions of that same person, different parts of the person. When you look for the good in the other person, number one, it makes you better. Number two, you're able to influence that person. When you see the good in another person, you're able to influence. Think about yourself. Think about yourself for a second. Who in your life can influence you the most? Someone who thinks that you're a mufchar, or someone who thinks you're terrible, or someone who thinks that you're a good person. Someone who thinks you're terrible, you know what you do when that person criticizes you? The shutters of your brain go up and like, no, you're not welcome. Your brain does not let in anything the person is going to say to you. When someone thinks good about you, and you know people who believe in you, you want to hear what they have to say. So if you want to influence someone else, you have to believe in that person. You have to think good about that person. If you think negatively, you're not going to be able to help them. I want to tell you a crazy story about this woman named Edith Hager. Edith Hager is a famous author. She's 90 years old. She's a Holocaust survivor. She became very depressed after the Holocaust. She got married and divorced, and she recovered. She married again, and she speaks and she writes around the world. A 14-year-old boy comes to her office. She's a therapist, and he is dressed like a Nazi. She is a Holocaust survivor. He's dressed like a Nazi. And he says to her, I don't want there to be any more blacks, any more Jews. They should all be dead. I want America just to be white. And he's saying this to her, who's a Holocaust survivor, who's been in Auschwitz. You know what I'm saying? He's saying this to her. So she prayed to God at that moment, and she said to God, God, let me find this little bit of fanaticism in myself. Let me find some fanaticism in myself. And all of a sudden she felt this inner voice in herself that doesn't judge people. Let me find the part of myself that does not judge people. And when she found that, this voice in herself, she said to the boy, tell me more. Tell me more. The boy started to pour out his heart, all the anger, all the rage, all the frustration, all the things that people did to him. And he poured out all more and more and more for 2 hours, saying why he's upset. And he left after 2 hours with a smile. That's what happens when I look good for someone's good. This helps us understand something else. It says in the Torah to judge people favorably. Where does it come from? Where does it come from to judge people favorably? What does it say in the Torah? It says there's a verse in the Torah, B'tzedek tishpot amitecha. What does that mean? It has two meanings. One meaning of it is like this. Let's say if two people, you're the judge, right? You have two people come to you. One of them dressed with a Giorgio or Armani suit, and he has really nice glasses. And the other one looks like a shlump. So you know what happens to you immediately when they come to your courtroom? Right away you think that the shlump is wrong. That's how it happens. So the Torah says, when they come to your courtroom, get them both in their Armani suits or put them both in the shlumpy clothing. You guys be perfect, by the way. You're both exactly dressed the same. You come to court together. Anyways, but you have to be dressed the same way. Dressed the same way. Similar way, you can't have one guy standing, one guy sitting. You can't say one guy, oh, tell me what's going on. The other guy, speak to sternly. You have to speak to them. They're both the same. They have to both come to you dressed the same. They're both in the same position. That's what it means to judge someone righteously. But the Talmud says there's another meaning of judging people righteously. It means judge them favorably. 1 second. If I'm judging them favorably, I'm not judging them correctly. Either I'm judging them correctly or I'm judging them Favorably. How could it be both together? Is it favorable or is it correct? Is it truthful? And the answer is that there's two different things you have to do as a judge. There's judging the deeds. Yankel took Bijan's Mustang and he stole his Mustang. So you got to know if he has to return the Mustang or not. You have to know the details of the case. You have to judge the deed. When it comes to the person you have to judge favorably. There's a deed and there's a person. You can't put them together. And this is something incredible the Rebbe teaches, which helps us understand a lot, which really can transform our lives. There is a rule in the world that God made. God made a rule in the world that there is zeh l'umat zeh, which means wherever you have good, you have holy. And whenever you have good and holy, you have the opposite. When you have negative and bad, you have good. Hashem made it fair. So if you find someone with a huge problem, that means they have a huge soul. Whenever you find something terrible in someone, that means they also have something amazing. It's not just either good or bad. Everyone has both. In fact, if you find something really bad in someone, that means that they have something really good in them as well. Think about Esav, our uncle Esav. Remember our great uncle Esav, Yaakov's brother Esau? Isaac knew he had a much greater potential than Yaakov. Yaakov knew this guy has a lot greater stuff in his soul than Yaakov. He's a murderer. He did crazy, terrible stuff, but inside his soul he knew there was more. So don't look at what the person thinks. Don't look at what the person says. Don't look at what they do. Halacha, you got to figure out whose car it's supposed to go to, who is the owner, what the deed was done, and what's the right move right now. But looking at the person, you got to see the good. So I'll tell you one. This is unbelievable. There's a 19-year-old who came from a religious family. Listen to this. Don't run away. Listen to this story. It's unbelievable. You know, share it with your brothers. It's a paradigm shift. Let's hear the story. It will change the way you think about things. 19 years old boy. He came from a very, very religious, wonderful family. And then he went astray, stopped keeping all this stuff, stopping keeping kosher and Shabbat, completely left everything. So he went to a rabbi, and he started telling the rabbi what was going on in his life. He said to the rabbi like this. He says, unfortunately, he had a relative who did stuff to him. I don't want to speak at length, but you could figure out what he did to him. And whenever his parents went away, they would always leave him in the care of this relative who molested him. And he said at that point, I was growing up, you know what I did? I used to always pray to God, God, take this person away. Make sure that he doesn't be the one to take care of me. Make sure he dies. Take this person away. He prayed that guy should die. He prayed this person who was molesting him should die. He prayed and prayed and prayed and didn't help. And since it didn't help, he said, I have a choice at that moment. I asked them, my molester should die. He didn't die. I have a choice. You know what the choice I had was? Either I'm going to believe that God is cruel and God doesn't care about me. That's one way I could look at the world, and that God is a cruel God, doesn't care. Or I could decide that God is just not around, just doesn't hear me. So whenever this guy was eating pork, you know what was going on in his pork? You know what kind of faith in God he had in his eating pork? He came from I can't say that there's a cruel God. I can't attribute cruelty to God. I have to believe that God wouldn't let this happen. So he had an erroneous mistake because of what happened to him, because of the challenges that God gave him. But you know what's going on, the kind of soul there is in his mistake? This is a very important message for ourselves as well. Judging people favorably doesn't just mean people. It means me, it means you, it means ourselves. Many people feel like they're victims. They have to be terrible because of things that have happened to them. There's a great line, someone said, there's a difference between being a thermostat and a thermometer. What's the difference? Some people, they're always judging the heat, the temperature. They're just thermometers. Don't be a thermometer, be a thermostat. When things change in the room, so you put on the heater. Some people are just victims, they're just passive. They say, oh, this happened to me. We are the creators of our movie. We are the ones who show the movie, we're the ones who watch the movie, we're the ones who make the movie. We create it. So we have to judge ourselves to the merit as well. The moment you open your eyes and you say to yourself, that you're not a victim, and it's not true, and you feel the good in your mistakes that you make, you feel I'm a good person, but I make mistakes, and you feel the good in yourself in those mistakes, that's how you get to Mashiach. That's what Mashiach is about. It says when Mashiach will come, he will gather all the Jewish people together. You know how he's going to gather the Jewish people together? He's going to find the good in every single Jew. He's going to find the good in us. And preparing for Mashiach means also to look that way, to look for that neshama, that spark of Mashiach in you. This is the answer to our question: how do we get God's attention? How do we make things good? It says in the Talmud, anybody judges others favorably, what happens? God judges you favorably. So, yeah, this is the bottom line, my friends. We've got to look at each other in a good way, look at ourselves in a good way. This will open the gates of heaven for ourselves, and may Hashem really look at us favorably and send us the end of the Galut and bring Mashiach and the Korv Mamish, L'chaim. Any questions, comments, or criticism? Yeah, the boy recovered. The boy recovered because of that. He was able to express himself, and he let all the anger out, and they were able to. She was able to help him because of that. Because she let him speak, and she listened to him. He all of a sudden, like it wasn't because he's a bad person. He wasn't a real Nazi. There's all this anger in him, and he just like.